Hello friends, this is Anjana again and I bring you my next Java tutorial which is about overview of Java which covers OOP. Before starting we have to understand the two paradigms that are POP, process oriented model, and object oriented model, OOP. So in POP, program is divided into small parts called function. In OOP, program is divided into parts called objects. In POP, importance is not given to data but to functions as well as sequence of action to be done. In OOP, importance is given to the data rather than procedures or functions because it works as a real world. POP follows top-down approach. POP and OOP follows POP bottom-up approach. POP does not have any access specifier. POP has access specifier named public, private, protected, etc. In POP, data can move freely from function to function in the system. In OOP, objects can move and communicate with each other through member functions. To add new data and function in POP is not so easy. OOP provides an easy way to add new data and function. In POP, most function uses global data for sharing that can be accessed freely from function to function in the system. In OOP, data cannot move easily from function to function. It can be kept public or private so we can control the access of data. POP does not have any proper way to hiding data so it is less secure. OOP provides data hiding so provide more security. In POP, overloading is not possible. In OOP, overloading is possible in the form of function overloading and operator overloading. Example of POP are C, VB, Fortran, Pascal. Example of OOP are C++, Java, Web, VB.NET, C#.NET. OOP, object-oriented programming, is at the core of Java. In fact, all Java programs are object-oriented. That isn't an option that it is in C++, for example. OOP is so integral to Java that you must understand its basic principle before you can write it even Java program. Therefore, this chapter begins with a discussion of the theoretical aspects of the OOP. There are four major principles of OOP: abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. Abstraction: a model is of a complex system that includes only the details essential to perspective of the viewer of the system. In other words, only the characteristics of the system that are essential to the problem using the studied are modeled. Its explanation and an abstraction is a model of a complex system that includes only the essential detail. Abstractions are the fundamental way that we manage complexity. Different viewers use different abstraction of a particular system. Thus, while we see a car as a means of transportation, but the automotive engineer may see it as a large mass with a small content area between it and the road. What does the abstraction have to do with the software development? The program we write are abstractions. Writing software is difficult because both the systems we model and the processes we use to develop the software are complex. One of our major goals is to convince you to use abstractions to manage the complexity of developing software. Its advantages are it helps to manage the complexity of a large system support our quality goals for modifiability and reusability. Most modification can localized to just a few models. Supports the creation of generic modules that can be used in other systems. Applications are major application of abstraction is basically to deal with the complexity of the system. In other words, we can say that we use abstraction to simply our work. Now we have we have some discussion about the encapsulation. Encapsulation is the mechanism that binds together the code and the data it manipulates and keep both safe from the outside interferences and misuse. Encapsulation is the process of packaging your program, dividing each of its classes into two distinct parts, that interface and the implementation. Encapsulation is the mechanism that binds that together code and the data. It manipulates and keep both safe from the outside interfaces and misuse. One way to think about the encapsulation is as protective wrapper that prevents the code and the data from being arbitrarily accessed by other code defined outside the wrapper. Access to the code and data inside the wrapper is tightly controlled through a well defined interface. Looking at the example of power steering mechanism of the car. Power steering of a car is a complex system which internally have lots of components tightly coupled together, then they work. Some of these are valve body unit, boot, tie rod and ball joint, steering gearbox, etc. Synchronously to turn the car in the desired direction. It even controls the power delivered by the engine to the steering wheel. But to the external world, there is only one interface is available and rest of the complexity is hidden. Moreover, the steering unit in itself is a complete and independent. It does not affect the functioning of any other mechanism. Similarly, the same concept of encapsulation can be applied to code. Encapsulated code should have following characteristics. Everyone knows how to access it, can be easily used regardless of implementation detail. There shouldn't any side effects of the code to the rest of the application. The idea of encapsulation is to keep classes separated and prevent them from the having tightly coupled with each other. The basic of encapsulation is the class. A class defines the structure and behavior, data and code that will be shared by a set of objects. Each object of a given class contain a structure and the behavior defined by the class, as if it were stamped out by a mold in the shape of class. Objects are referred to as instance of classes. Basically, we can say that class is a logical construct and the object is a physical reality. Code and data of a class is known as a member of the class. Data is defined by the class are referred to as member variable or instance variable. The code that operates on the data is referred to as member methods or just methods. Now moving to the inheritance. Inheritance is the process by which one object acquires the properties of another object. It supports the concept of hierarchical, that is top-down classification. In the Java language, classes can be derived from the other classes by thereby inheriting fields and methods from those classes. A class that is derived from the another class is called a subclass. Also, a derived class, extended class, or child class The class from which the subclass is derived is called superclass, also base class or a parent class. Expecting object which has no superclass, every class has one and only one direct superclass, single inheritance. In the absence of any other explicit superclass, every class is implicitly a subclass of object. Classes can be derived from the classes that are derived from classes that are derived from classes, and so on, and ultimately derived from the topmost class object. Such a class is said to be descendant of from all the classes in the inheritance chain, stretching back to the object. By use of inheritance, an object need only defines define those qualities that make it unique within within its class. It can inherit its general attributes from its parents. Thus, it is the inheritance mechanism that makes it possible for one object to be specific instance of a more general case. A subclass inherits all the members, fields, methods, and nested class from its superclass. Constructors are not members, so they are not inherited by subclasses, but constructor of a superclass can be invoked from the subclass. We can see that all the classes in the Java platform are descendants of object. This simple example of car, which is that a car is a class and have some characteristics which is inherited by the other cars, that is Ferrari, BMW, or any other. These characteristics can be steer wheel, brake, accelerator, and others. Now moving to the polymorphism. Polymorphism is a feature that allows one interface to be used for a general class of action. The concept of polymorphism is often expressed by the phrase one interface, multiple methods. This means that it is possible to design a generic interface to a group of relative activities. This helps reduce complexity by allowing the same interface to be used to specify a general class of action. It is the compiler's job to select the specific action that is method it as it applies to each situation. Polymorphism is of two types: compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Compile time polymorphisms have two parts, that are function overloading and operator overloading. In the function overloading, we use a same name function in the multiple times, and in operator overloading we change the meaning of the operator. And in runtime polymorphism, it is of one time, which is a virtual function. Now moving to the example of polymorphism, you might have a program to requires three type of stacks. One stack is used for integer values, that is int stack. For one of the floating point values, which is float stack, and one for characters, that is char stack. The algorithm that implements each stack is the same, even though the data being stored differed. In a non-object oriented language, you would be required to create three different set of stack routines. As you can see that int stack, float stack, and char stack are the three routines of stack, which with each set using different names. However, Because of polymorphism in Java, as it is a OOP language, so you can specify a general set of stack routines that all share the same names, that is stack, and we can use this stack for multiple usage, like in stack for integer, as stack for integer values, float values, and character values. So the lesson is completed here. Thank you for watching my video, and uh, please comment as you like it or not. Thank you.